I'm sitting here with filmmaker Alex Sichel, who of course made All Over Me and is here at Frameline36 with the film as part of our new queer cinema retrospective. We are so thrilled to have you joining us for the screening that we just had.
Thank you.
I'm wondering if you could start just by sharing what it's like to revisit this film 15 years later here at the Castro Theater on 35mm.
It's an incredible experience to revisit this film 15 years later at the Castro Theater. We screened here 15 years ago, and it was an amazing time to make this movie that just we didn't know who we would speak to, and we had this huge, gorgeous theater 15 years ago full of people who said, "This is my story." And now, 15 years later, it's more incredible because there are so few theaters like that. There's so few big, beautiful old theaters left, and there's so few people screening on film anymore. So the combination was really amazing, and the fact that people came out and said, again, either I'm coming back to see this movie, or I'm 18, I've never seen this movie before, and it's my story. Or some people, kind of my generation, who've never seen it, and still it speaks to them. I had some amazing conversations after even the Q&A about how personal the film was to people.
One thing that I was really struck by in this film is really just kind of the beautiful organic friendship between the two girls, and how that kind of, something you talked about in the Q&A was how that developed organically, as well as, both you and your sister's experience with kind of having these huge crushes as teenagers and adolescents. So I'm wondering if you could share with us a little bit about the process of writing the film as well as directing it, and how we got to Claude coming out.
So the process of making this movie is a long one. I was hanging out with Riot Girl, and first I thought, maybe this is a documentary. Like there's this energy here, which is about girl. It's about like the wild child before you get socialized. That's what Riot Girl was about, is reconnecting to this girl before she fit into social norms. And I was very excited about that. And I started just shooting stuff. Like I mentioned in the Q&A, we had pussy stock, and we had like girls getting up and writing a song and performing it the next day, and this incredible energy. So first I thought it was a documentary, and then I started talking to my sister, who was a playwright, and she was like, "I'll write a script for you. It's no big deal. I'm a playwright. Like movie script, it'll take me a month." Maybe she even said it'll take me a week. She thought, no big deal. 3 years later, we're still working on the script, and people are like, "You're still working on that movie? Like, what's going on with that?" But we got into this very, I think it was 3 years. I hate to say that because I want to think that you can write a movie in a week, but it doesn't seem to happen to me. But we got into this incredible process where we really went back to what that time was like for us. And she was brave enough to do that. I was a little scared to do that because it wasn't necessarily all good. It was very painful. Our friendships were like love affairs, but they were never called that, in the real world. And the lines were so blurry. And in that way, before we fit into some role, we didn't call ourselves gay or straight. We just were like feelings, emotions, desires, girls and boys too. And how is that all interfacing? And the reason why I say they were like love affairs, I wouldn't have called them that, but the breakups were like breakups of love affairs. It was when they broke up that you realized, wait, why is this breakup so intense if it's a friendship? So we created this character, and then we kind of followed her and let her call the shots. And she ended up being a lesbian. We didn't know that when we started out. We just knew she was going to have one of these friendships. But she ended up saying, wait, when I actually kiss you, I really do love you, and I really want to take that seriously. And whereas her friend was like, I'll only do it with the lights off, I'm not going to live that. And she said, no, that's actually who I am. And we said, wow, that's wild. She just came out. And so it changed what the film was, because we really weren't setting out to make a gay film, in the sense that now it's so gratifying that there's a context for that. But in a way, we didn't want it to be called a coming out film, because that seemed almost to limit what it was about. but she ended up coming out. So what are we going to do?
This film is deeply effective and personal for me, especially because it came out when I was coming out in high school, and it was one of the first images I saw of a young, budding baby Butch. So it's very special for me to revisit this so many years later, and also to reflect back and want to thank you and your sister for also penning the second installment of If These Walls Could Talk To in 1972, which of course starred Chloe Sevigny and Michelle Williams in a super sexy butch femme relationship. And so I feel like I have such a gratitude of love to you and your sister for just creating these images of young butches for young folks to connect with. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
And then I was wondering if you would mind telling us what you enjoy about screening at Frameline and the work we do.
Well, it's interesting because I said 15 years ago I was here and I screened this movie in the Castro. And I remember when we made this movie, again, we didn't know it was going to be a queer movie, and then the queer film festivals were the most unbelievable audiences for us. It was like the people who totally get the movie and totally surrounded us with love, and it was the moments where we felt, wow, now we see why we did this. But the Castro was interesting. San Francisco audiences are much more complex, So I don't remember exactly, but I remember that screening, all the love was there, but it was also we're going to ask some difficult questions. We're not going to just take this. So it was a challenging in the right way experience. And now coming back 15 years later, I opened the program. I just cannot believe how many movies you guys are showing and how many queer features there are. I was paging through the U.S. features, and I'm sure that's not even everything that was submitted or everything even that was good, probably. That's extraordinary that it's such a... I didn't know that this festival is so alive and ticking and full, and the international offerings, and the fact that you're still at the Castro, this old theater, and that someone came up before the screening and asked me what aspect ratio my movie is at, and I looked at them you're screening my movie on film? Is this really happening? I didn't know that. I would have flown myself out here if I'd known that, because that's a very rare experience. So I feel very, very lucky to have you guys. I feel like we're all very lucky to have you guys. So vibrant and healthy an organization, and so committed.
Thank you, Alex, for those kind words. Appreciate it. So we're so thrilled to have you here and revisit this beautiful film that really was just so groundbreaking. And of course, Bibi Ruberich included it in her picks for New Queer Cinema, and we're so thrilled that we could share this with you again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Love fest.
Love fest.
You're getting for a clam.
It's good. I got for a clam.